link's going to. They're going to hear us. That's the only thing, at least for now. But
That's
I think
cool.
that'll be
I mean,
fine.
that's the whole
Yeah, it's
point
the
of these
whole
jam
live
sessions.
vibe thing, right? Yeah. All right, cool. Let's see.
Of course, my kids just got home from school, so
Yeah,
they're
I
gonna
know.
be
I'm like,
they're gonna be eating up the bandwidth in my house over the next hour.
for real. My thankfully my daughter actually has like a like an extracurricular class after us today because I feel like when she gets home and my son's home, they just go animal style. And so sometimes like the jumping around upstairs, this is like too much to handle, and the mic catches it and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
My girls are like pretty quiet, but they're going like straight to the iPads and Netflix, and
yeah,
yeah, we should be good though.
yeah. There's the Twitter one. I'll also, I guess I'll find the YouTube one real quick. Okay. Actually, I guess I could have just Zoom Slack those to you, but I DM'd those to you over in Blue Sky.
Okay, all right, cool. I'll do
Or
a retweet.
I'll just throw them in the chat here too, just so you have them. Cool. Oh, we already got 3 people on. Cool. So let's
Sweet.
I'll bring down the card.
I'm
We'll
gonna
get
live
started.
tweet this. I did that. Now I gotta do everything twice on Twitter and Blue Sky or X and Blue
Yeah.
Sky, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Did you put up the link on Blue Sky?
I did. Yeah. Um, well, I'll tweet it right now.
Also, is there like a okay? So the chat is here in
Yeah, we could do the chat in Zoom.
cool.
All right, cool. So welcome to Jam Sessions. This is the second episode. Today I'm joined with Brian Casel, who runs Clarity Flow, and he is also now dipping a toe into the consulting agency world, spinning up instrumental dev. And
Yeah.
today we're just going to jam on what you're working on. I think, it seems like over the last year or so, it seems like you've been kind of thrashing around trying to figure out like what the next move is and exploring a lot of different projects and products and stuff. And I feel like
That's a
I've been
good way
doing
to
some
put it.
similar stuff, and
Yeah,
be good just to kind of like compare notes.
for sure, man. Yeah, I've been. I think I just found your stuff about like sometime in the last year. Like you're one of the few people doing like a solo podcast, talking products, talking about what you're working on,
Oh yeah, and
and
I totally didn't even bring up Ripple. The fact that you launched Ripple, which is
yeah,
like a private podcasting apps too. So
yeah.
we'll get into podcasting as well.
For sure, for sure. That was like a little thing. I don't really know where that's going, if it's going anywhere, but it was a fun project to hack on. I'm still using it from time to time to post like private podcasts.
Yeah,
But but yeah, it has been a year of like thrashing and and just trying a lot of stuff, and then getting back into the consulting game, which I did like over 10 years ago, and then didn't for probably 10 years, and back at it, but now doing it doing software products as a service,
yeah.
which is sort of new to me. But
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, and also it seems like you're kind of really clear with like the product that you're delivering. It's not like you're just going to go in and pull tickets off the board or do like a random marketing site or go in and clean up maybe some messy infrastructure stuff. You're really focused on kind of like greenfield MVPs of like new product initiatives. So hopefully you're not, I feel like with my consulting stuff, a lot of times I kind of feel like like a janitor a little bit. I kind of have to like
Mm.
go in and clean up a lot of stuff. But I feel like with what you're carving out with like instrumental dev, um, it's a little more greenfield than that, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, it is because that's what I like to do is like spinning up new products, but also I feel like that's what I'm like most qualified to do, and I'm probably not as qualified as you to do to like go into like a large established organization and be like anything close to like a senior level developer. I mean, because I've never done that. I've done
Yeah.
professional design work and front end work and project management and and like I went independent like pretty early on in my career.
Hmm.
Um, I
Yeah. Was
did
that
work
back
at
in
a
'08?
yeah, '08. So before that, I had worked 3 years at an agency, but just doing front end and design and like marketing websites.
Hmm.
And then I didn't even learn full stack app development until 2018. Like 10 years later. During the early part, it was just all front end design work and just bootstrapping businesses and productized services and stuff. Um, and then when I learned like full stack with Rails and just got into like building my own stuff, it was always building my own stuff. I had never worked at a company as a software developer, and I'm not talking about like front end, but like full stack.
Yeah.
Um, and I still haven't. So that's why I constantly feel like sort of like an imposter, like the imposter
Yeah.
syndrome is really like through the roof when it comes to like even like this is why I'm psyched for this kind of podcast because I don't go on like more technical shows very often. I
Hmm.
would like to do more of it, but I don't. A lot of times I'm just like the way the big organizations build stuff and operate and developer workflows and stuff like that. Like I just haven't really been exposed to that as much as most developers have. I've always
Yeah.
just been
Totally.
building my own stuff, like here in my own home office.
Yeah. But I mean, at the same time, you're also kind of doing a little bit of everything. So I feel like that's where like what maybe like a senior engineer or senior developer would be focused on and like in like the CIs and stuff, they don't have the broader scope of like the product vision and like what maybe actually connects or um resonates with the potential user. So I think
Yeah,
even though you might say you have imposter syndrome, it's only of a small sliver of like the whole product vision or really like what it takes to take something from idea and then create that MVP and make it a reality.
yeah, for sure. I think I also do think that like my lack of experience is also what has helped move really quickly through stuff. Like
Yeah, totally.
um like even just in the way that I learned how to build stuff, I always went about learning as like what do I have to learn in order to be able to build and ship a product and give it to customers, and that's really all I care about. And sometimes it's like frustrating because I don't have the CS degree and the years of corporate development experience to know all the workflows and all the ins and outs of like scaling a large application. But
Yeah.
I've just never had the need to do that. So I just learn like what's the most efficient way, and I think that's resulted in like being able to build and design stuff fast, and then even working with. I have a small team that I work with, and the way that I manage them is super efficient. You know, um, and we move pretty quickly. And that's
Yeah. I mean,
that's
I think we could,
that like that's what I always try to optimize for when I build. Like I don't want to add too much complexity or over optimization because that's going to slow us down. And the most important thing is shipping. It's not the like yeah performance and speed and like security, those are important, of course, but like at the end of the day, at this level, it's about shipping, and
Oh,
that's what we need to
especially
optimize for.
yeah, especially early on, because really what you're trying to do is learn, right? Like you need to put something in front of someone and say like, are they willing to pay for this? Are they going to use it? Do they find it helpful? Like, you know,
Yep.
and you could sit there and over engineer and try to work on performance and do a lot of like pre-optimization stuff and launch it and to crickets. And so I think focusing on just getting something out, moving fast. And I mean, I guess actually maybe let's step back a little bit. I mean, you're kind of you're juggling a lot of different stuff. You have Clarity Flow, obviously. And then you did say that you know, you started getting into full stack. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but Sunrise KPI, was that the first kind of like full stack Rails
Yeah,
product thing that you had worked on?
yes, that was the first one that I actually shipped. So I think I spent the year of 2018 like learning,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you know, went through a bunch of courses. I worked with a couple of coaches, and and I did not have AI back then
Yeah,
to
totally.
like speed me along. And yeah, did a bunch of like practice stuff and learning. And then by the end of that year, around December, I spent about a month building Sunrise KPI, um, and that was like the first thing that was actually like shippable,
Mhm.
and had some customers and everything. And eventually, that became like just a small project that didn't really go anywhere, and I ended up selling it off to someone, and then almost rebuilding it again.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you kind of were
But yeah,
almost gonna reboot it, right? But maybe like a little bit
maybe.
broader
Yeah,
vision.
I thought I was going to do that this year. It's I still love the idea of it. I just don't know if or when. So
Yeah,
right
I
now I'm
think
just like back in the mode of like I've got a long list of product ideas. I don't know which ones are going to come at what point, but right now it's I'm kind of focused on instrumental dev.
yeah, I mean that's kind of where I'm at too. It's like obviously the client stuff, the consulting stuff comes first because that's what's at least bringing in money on my side, and then
Yeah, what
moonlighting
is
on
your like what is your sort of portfolio right now? Because I know you were working on like the audio like notes app thing,
yeah,
and then you're doing some consulting work.
yeah. I mean, my primary thing is I have kind of like two main like consulting gigs that I do. One's like a retainer, and another one is, you know, log up as many hours as I can during the week and submit it twice a month or whatever. So that keeps me pretty busy. Obviously, having the retainer work is the priority, and then the hour stuff as I fit in, and then from there, yeah, I guess I've been kind of. I feel like I've been thrashing around trying to figure out like what the next product I want to work on is. The audio thing, which is called transmits,
Hmm.
um, kind of
That's a cool
started
name
out.
too.
It's like it's it's a little bit of like a chicken and egg. So I started building like what I'm calling a field recorder as like the first almost like client of the API, and then um, but the grander vision, it's almost just like an all audio API, similar to like imagine just like Vimeo for audio, being
Hmm.
able to like easily upload something, get embeds, have like one-off landing pages that you could send to someone, because the whole workflow, and it kind of spawns out of like the workflow with voice memos where I can record a voice memo on the Apple's app, but then I have to, or like, you know, like the Apple voice memo or whatever.
I know
But
exactly what you're talking about.
the way I want to
It's
share
it
it is like what I have to like send it to Dropbox, but like I
Yeah.
can't use Dropbox anymore because it doesn't sync with my machine. But you know, it's just like,
Dude, that I know exactly the workflow you're talking about, and it's such a pain. It's so amazing to me that Apple's voice memos is so hard. It's easy to record, and then
yeah, it's
it's
a great
so
recording
hard to like
experience.
share the file. You know,
Yeah.
I mean that's literally like in Clarity Flow, which is a messaging tool, async messaging tool, and our customers who are mostly coaches, they they really often use it on mobile for like sending and so like it's crazy how like recording video just through the browser is easy enough.
Totally.
Um, but like, but recording an audio and then uploading it and sending that is just annoying. And we ended up building our mobile app for Clarity Flow, like mainly to solve that one problem, just the audio messaging, because the video piece was fine. Um,
Yeah.
because like before that, for the first like year or 2 years of Clarity Flow, I had to like I gave people like a whole step by step on like, all right, use the voice memos app, then save the thing to your file storage
Or airdrop
and
it
then
to
like hold and
yourself
then you
or
gotta like
whatever.
hold the
Like,
thumb down like to get the file and then like copy it over here. And like, oh my God.
yeah. So, I mean, just that workflow. And I think, and then adding some niceties around it, like having the whole transcription thing where, like, regardless of the audio format, it puts it to where it's like optimized for delivery via the web, or you can grab the raw source or whatever. So that's kind of one of the things I was working on. But since then, I've also just been kind of like, it got to a point and I was like, I guess I was more focused on building the field recorder and having it be this like local first, almost like offline progressive web app. And
Mm,
so I wasn't focusing so much on the API at that point. But at this point, I almost want to almost have those as like two separate projects, like this like field recorder and then like transmits as like this service and then pair them up at some point, but not have one be limited or beholden to the other, if that makes sense. I
mm.
don't know.
Why do you see it that way? What like is there like a separate use case for each?
I think there is. And I think when it comes to the local first stuff, like if you want to just like imagine basic voice memos as is, if you just wanted to have it in your pocket and just quickly record something, have local transcriptions of your audio, and then being able to like quickly search through like audio notes could be a cool
Mm.
offline only. You don't really need the syncing service. And then I think it gives you superpowers when you can then have that be like a first party client for transmits, which is like this um, audio API where then you can start easily share and upload it. So I must think that
Mm.
that's where I started to get the chicken and the egg. It's like, well, do I build this like full featured offline only recording thing and without the like online syncing sharing stuff, or do I build
So this
the API?
so if I understand it correctly, like transmits would be like the platform that users can quickly like
Share,
upload and share and get a shareable link.
correct.
Um,
And the field
and
recorder would
and
be
then the
like
field
almost like a
recorder is for that like local like easy quick recording.
yeah, with
The
the
field
option
recorder
of
part
offline stuff.
that that part feels like uh too basic to like it just the platform risk, right? Like I
Totally.
feel like with like Apple's voice memos are just going to get better, and they have um, Apple Intelligence, right, which is probably going to be able to transcribe it if it doesn't already, right?
Totally.
So I'd be like, unless you already have it built, like I wouldn't want to like spend a lot of time like or invest a lot in that being the product if within the next year of Apple updates like that could become obsolete.
Yeah. So I do actually have the like the progressive web app, like a rough kind of demo of it working. The thing I was working
Mm,
in was actually the local transcription. So it's like using WebAssembly to pull down OpenAI's Whisper model and then allowing it to like run locally within the browser.
mm,
So I almost have that part done. And then really at that point, that almost could just be released as like its own thing without even the idea of transmits. And then and as I build transmits, that's going to be basically my first example client of using and consuming the API. So
yeah.
that's kind of where that is. But that also just feels bit.
I do like the local personal like use case for like replacing voice memos because I do use voice memo just the Apple voice memos a lot.
Yeah.
Um, either just journals or recording like a song on the guitar or something like that. Um, and yeah, it's just like I can't like search any of it or go back. It's just a long list of stuff that I never go back
With
to.
random
If I do something with it
addresses.
today, yeah, like yeah, random addresses of like where I was when I recorded, right?
Yeah.
Like just the other day, I I've been trying to migrate from using Day One app for like
Yeah.
journaling over to Obsidian, and I like Obsidian for like markdown text writing, and then they have this like audio recording feature that you can enable, and I
Oh
tried
wow.
that the other day, and it sucks. Like
Oh
it doesn't work. It's hard to like you don't even know if you're recording or if it's paused. I did a whole recording and the thing got lost, and like you know
yeah. Yeah, that's the tricky stuff with some of that media stuff where yeah, you don't know. I mean, I guess you actually do you all use Riverside for Bootstrap Web?
yeah. Yeah, it was funny when you're talking about the transcriptions. So yeah, we record in Riverside just so Jordan and I can like sort of see each other, and it's really good for recording a two-way podcast. And then I export out from Riverside, and then I upload it to our podcast host, which is Castos. And it's funny how like it gets transcribed twice now.
Yeah, yeah,
So like
totally.
it's like Riverside automatically transcribes it, and then I upload it to Castos, and then Castos automatically transcribes it. So it's like I think that's also the kind of thing that's just going to be like like everything is going to be transcribed everywhere. You know?
Exactly. Yeah, I don't even think transcribe is the real killer feature. I do think, and I don't know if any of these other apps. I actually use Transistor for my podcast, and they
Mm-hmm.
also have audio transcription as well. But the one thing I would like it to have, and I'm just not sure if it's doing it behind the scenes, is the way that I was thinking with the local stuff is if there's common words that you're constantly re-editing because it just never picks it up, that's something that I could actually bake in and have also like in this like local prompt kind of dictionary thing where then it's like a second layer on top of the transcription. So I could use OpenAI Whisper, but I would love it if some of these transcription models would take those editing and save that just for me and then reapply it like after the fact.
Mm.
I think that could be
Um,
something that could be interesting.
wait, so if there's like a keyword that you say, like
So
take you
Ryan
straight to that
Hefner,
point.
they say they transcriptions uh and also I'm probably also partly to blame. I could mumble my name or I
Yeah.
could be a
Oh
mumbler
yeah.
when I'm
Like I'm
saying
sure my name
stuff.
always gets like I don't spell it like the word castle. It's
But
Casel, right? I'm sure
it's gonna be
transcriptions would. Yeah.
exactly. So I've done this with some of the other stuff. I mean, I work on or actually one of my clients is we do basically like virtual PT. So
Hmm.
we use human pose estimation models to basically use your camera and then we can track the body joints and then track ROMs and all this other stuff. Well, what we ended
Oh,
up
that's
even
cool.
doing is writing some like machine learning models to like when you turn a specific way, instead of us like trying to like understand the position of your nose and the context to your shoulder and all this other stuff, we actually wrote machine learning models that we could then run that data through. So essentially doing something similar for transcription. So it'd be getting smarter
Hmm.
for the each individual person who's using it because it's going to be unique to every single person. Like
Yeah.
someone might also have a word that's castle and they don't want it
Yeah. Yeah.
spelled like
Yeah.
your
Like
last
in
name.
your, it's almost like training your own
Yeah,
model
your own local
for
models.
editing your own stuff, right?
And I think that's where some of this AI stuff is going to go is more local and
Mhm.
streamlining it and being a little more personalized. But again that's like beyond the scope of what I'm trying to chew off right now. But that's where my
Mhm.
head starts going down the road.
For sure.
Um, but yeah, so I mean, yeah, I'm working on transmits and that's kind of a slow burner. And then I also have like a few other little like almost not really like toy apps, but just kind of like stuff to scratch my own itch. I'm building something around Blue Sky right now that I'm almost have done, but I'm
So hot
trying
right now.
to work through some of
What are you building?
the infrastructure stuff. So I mean, I can actually show you, but it's and actually I didn't realize. So I started working on it last week or the week before, and I didn't realize where Mubs was going to be going with his Blue Sky directory. I don't know if you've checked
I
that
think I
out.
saw that. Yeah. That's like a directory of. lists of the starter packs, right?
Well,
Or
I think originally he was trying to have it be like an all inclusive where like if there's different apps or labelers or whatever, feeds and different things like that. But he seems like he's leaning into the starter packs just because that seems like that's the hotness. But I'm basically
starter packs
building,
do see. I think starter packs are super smart, and they're also like there does need to be more tooling around them.
and
You know.
that's kind of what I'm working on. So right now he has a directory. Um, I mean, I kind of feel bad, but I probably will end up also creating a directory of the starter packs. But I think the one twist that I plan on putting on it is when you're exploring. So from a starter, I'm having more of the experience on this app itself to where essentially you can search for starter packs. You can then see a full list of everyone who's in that starter pack. You can click into their profile and then see starter packs that they created as well as starter packs that they're in. And I think there
Yes,
could be
that's what it needs. I
A
like that.
SaaS play where you get notified of when someone adds you to a starter pack. So that way you're aware of it. And there also could be a potential messaging where I can either request to be added to or removed from, but without that having to be in like the public channels because it always feels a little bit cringy, like, yo, add me
Yes,
to a pack, but like
totally. I
maybe a little bit more
100%.
etiquette around that. And also
I
like the
love this
idea of
whole idea, dude.
yeah, and like just being able to be removed. So I was able to secure starterpacks.net and
All right.
starterpacks.org. Just going to lean into the name. But actually, I think it's kind of interesting because I love the concept of starter packs, obviously within the context of Blue Sky. But I think there's probably also a
You're
lot of
right
people.
about that. I mean, the pattern, like the use case pattern of like starter packs as a thing and people replying and asking to be included. I mean, I've done that and it is cringy, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
but like it does work and it's also just a really good way to say like
To
because I
discover.
also like yeah, I whatever, it's like cringy and markety and everything, but everyone wants to gain more followers, right? But I
Yeah,
also really care about like I only want the right followers. I don't want just random I don't want to just grow my following count. I want people who are actually I only want to be included on starter packs that are about the things that I'm about. Like,
yeah.
you know, products and
And where
designs
people
and
actually are going to
startups and gaming.
engage and it's not just about increasing a follower number, but
Hmm.
being with kind of like people like us do things like this. You want to be like in those zones, right? And
Yeah,
affiliated with those
exactly.
people and
And
all
I've
that
been
kind of stuff.
trying to find a good way to. I know that like these startups are starting to pop up, but like I don't even remember the URLs of most of them, and like how to find starter packs a that I'm on, or starter packs that I should recommend to other people.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
So, I mean, that could be like this next phase that I end up doing. I think it's super easy to show both starter packs that you've created as well as starter packs that you're in and even get notified.
yeah,
You could potentially like, this is where I'm trying to figure out if there's like a small little subscription play where, you pay $5 and then you get some basic stats of or notifications when you're added to a pack and maybe some light stats over the top of it as far as like who's following you from what packs, especially if they're following from starter packs. I could actually like
yeah.
slice
I
and
feel like
dice like where
that's
you're coming
really
from,
it would be really interesting to me to see like
which
who
pack
is
is like the most
actually
performant,
exactly
or
which one is bringing the most followers because then I know like who are the types of people that are following me and what are they into and that informs
totally.
like what I should be posting about, you know.
Yeah.
But the other thing is I started one starter pack called podcasters, which is like people who host podcasts, right? And and I it's also annoying to like add people to a starter pack. I don't know if you've done that, but like
Yeah, I
it's
have.
not like a one click thing. I have to like so people will request to be included in my starter pack,
Then you
and
go
then
find them, like look them up via their handle.
yeah, I gotta like find exactly how their handle is spelled, and then I gotta go through like three other screens just to do the add process, and they're like, wait, what was it spelled again? And like
Yeah.
it's annoying, you know.
So I mean, I think
um,
that even could be another play too, where essentially I have to look and see if there's a endpoint for creating a starter pack on a actor profile or whatever. But that also might be like a nice utility to add to this whole starter pack thing. And then even beyond that, the concept of
Like it's
starter
so easy to
packs,
follow someone. They've got the really nice like if I don't follow you, I could just click the plus on you and follow you. The
totally,
same should be like add you to starter pack, you know?
exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I even think it could even extend beyond Blue Sky. Like, if imagine I could also see whether someone had a YouTube and is like posting videos, and I could like potentially like subscribe to their YouTube as well, or who knows? Like, I don't know if I'm going to put Twitter on
It's
there or
so hard to like
whatever, but
it's so hard to I would. I mean, I use them both,
yeah,
you
why
know.
not? Yeah, that's true.
The uh it's so hard to think about like ideas that are like this could be a social network, you know. This sounds more like a layer on
It's
top
like
of
a
all the social
utility.
networks.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
this is like a
which I really like.
social network utility kind of thing. But
The other thing is cross posting. I mean, I've used Buffer for this in the past. I haven't used it recently, but that's definitely becoming a thing now. So like most, not all, but like most of the tweets or whatever that I put out, like I'm gonna post them to Blue Sky, Twitter, and Threads.
yeah.
And I just manually do it to all three. And
Yeah, and especially if you do any at references, it means you have to go back and like take whatever the first one
mhm,
you wrote and then like
yeah,
remap them to
or
the
I need to
proper
like tweak it
handles or
because it's
whatever.
like, or I need to
Or
tweak it
too
because like
long.
I could do a link on Blue Sky, but not a link on X, and like,
Yeah, you got thread it. Although I do think
yeah.
it seems like Blue Sky maybe just rolled out threads, which is kind of cool that you can do now. Not
Mm.
to say that I mean the linking thing is irrelevant, but if you wanted to really have a lengthy thread thing, you can do it now all in one go, I think. Which is cool.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
Yeah, man.
I guess to actually, what's your cutoff? just
Um, I'm
so
pretty
we,
open. I don't have anything else other than just projects to get back to, but I don't have any calls or anything. So
okay.
whenever you want to
Um,
wrap.
no, I just wanted to make sure that we wanted to get to some other stuff, but yeah, I actually I'm always curious about Clarity Flow and like the life there. Uh, obviously you've you still have Clarity Flow going, and what you have one developer kind of like working on it
Yeah,
full
Clarity
time
Flow
ish.
is one full-time developer. She's in India, and one part-time customer success person, customer
Oh,
support
cool.
success. Yep.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I work on it like I like to think of it like 20% of my time, but there are some weeks where it's like 5% of my time, and other weeks where it's like 50% of my time. For the most part, it's I'm I'll put in like a sprint of my work to set up the a new feature to like start designing and architecting and directing a new feature, and then I hand it over to her to build out for like 6 weeks, and then
Yeah, so
we get
that's
near
your
the
heavy
end of
week
that.
basically.
Yeah, like that's yeah, like I'll spend like one full week going heavy on it, and then I'm like really off of it and just kind of answering questions as they come up.
Hmm.
And then near the end, which actually happened today, like today we're on the final stages of launching a big new feature. We're launching forms
Oh,
in
nice.
Clarity Flow, like a custom forms builder. Um, and so she's basically finished all of it, and I'm spending probably 2 or 3 days testing it all out and putting a lot of like the final design polish and front end and just tightening everything up. Um, and so there's probably 2 days of my work sending it back over to her, then getting it ready for like our deployment process, which will happen next week, which is a few days where we'll deploy it to staging and test it, deploy it to production quietly and test it, and then get it out. But um, yeah, I mean that's it's like most days I might have a question or two in my inbox from my developer or the support person
Hmm.
that I answer. So that might be a half an hour of my time during the day, and the rest of the day I'm on my other stuff. Um, except for these like 1 week every 6 weeks where I go hard on it. You know.
Yeah, no, it's cool to have that as I guess that's kind of where I'm trying to get to is like have obviously it would be great to have a breakout success and just have something I could pour all my time into, and just every ounce of effort I pour into it is like 10 times the effort, like returns coming back on it. But yeah, that could be tricky. I mean, obviously,
It's
and
a weird, it is in a weird state. Like I would say like I like this balance that I have right now, but it's not the ideal.
yeah,
um, it's like, um, I mean, the ideal would be that like this product is just so profitable that like there's really no reason why I should be doing anything else. But that's just not the reality. It's also not nothing. Like it's not something that's uh like low enough to say like I should just kill it. Um,
totally.
and it because it's something, and we have a customer base, and it is growing, but it's growing super slowly, just like most bootstrapped SaaSes do. Um, it's not enough to pay my full-time salary. It also doesn't make financial sense to like let go of the developer and the support person and do everything 100% myself, because that's
Yeah.
also not sustainable. It just wouldn't be able to really operate if I'm building everything and I'm fixing every single bug and I'm responding to every customer's email. And we do a lot of like heavy customer onboarding. Like my customer support person, she does calls and like hours of communicating with clients that like this thing would not work if I were the one doing all of that.
Yeah.
Because I was doing that for the first few years. And then so it's much better, I think, set up with them in place so that I can just sort of direct the product at an arm's length, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and it's something. It's still just slowly growing, and I still like it as a product. I use it all the time still. Like in my consulting work, I use Clarity Flow with my clients every day.
That's actually one
Um,
of the things I was thinking about when you started talking about instrumental dev, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more detail of like what you have going on there. And you started exploring some of the course stuff, because I know that you're kind of like, I think you're ping ponging between either doing more of like some of the dev tooling and UI stuff, or whether you're going to get into like more of the core stuff. I was curious whether you're actually going to use Clarity Flow as like a dog fooding way of like being able to almost like connect with a like a
yeah,
student or course population, and
I
utilize
think
some of the tools there and not.
I might use Clarity Flow for some of that, but I'm not really going to get into. I did decide that like instrumental dev is not going to be like a course platform. It's really going to mainly be the UI components for Ruby on Rails.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm pretty active on building that right now, and it's coming along pretty fast now because I'm actually using it in my projects, in my like client projects. I'm actually using the components system that I'm building at the same time. So, um, but yeah, it's going to be basically some form of, I think, an annual membership, or at least an annual license to get access to all of the components. And then the components themselves are going to be like I think a big part of this product is going to be the documentation. I guess you might think of that as sort of like it's not really a course though. It's like every component is going to have its own page
Mhm.
with a video walkthrough plus like text instructions and different configuration, just like an API documentation, but
Yeah.
like part API docs, part here's how you can use this component and here's how you
Examples
can
or
customize it.
applications or context
Yeah.
around how you would apply it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm building it like as a tool that you would install, like a gem that you would install into a Rails app that gives you all these commands to just like generate and insert these components into your project. So I'll give you some instructions on that. Um, so yeah, that's where, and then I do think that there's going to be a services, like I'm already doing my consulting service, one month app, and I think these are going to sort of merge into the same umbrella under instrumental.dev. So like if I the way that I'm thinking about it right now is the base level product is like just getting access to the components.
Hmm.
Um, then there's like maybe a middle level product, which is sort of like a coaching service, and that might be async using Clarity Flow. So you might want my input on your product and maybe coaching you on how to implement some things and maybe answering more personal direct like coaching and support.
I mean, it could
That'll be
also kind of almost go back to like where you were even originally taking zip message, where it was almost kind of more of like async support, right? So like people could be
yeah.
using your components and stuff, and they could post up like a video, and then you could asyncly reply, back to it,
Yeah,
basically using that same
I think
kind of
there might be
flow.
some element of that. Like
Yeah,
there'll probably be just a general like customers forum for that for just general chatter. But if you do want like direct support from me,
and you're
and
paying for
eventually
that tier
from a
or
team,
whatever.
then you can
Yeah,
like kind of pay for like a pro support package, and then like the highest end would be like hire me and my team to like actually build your application with our components, you know. And
yeah,
that's the service that I offer now to clients. So that's how I see it eventually all kind of coming together. Um, but I'm really actually treating it like uh, I'm building this thing for me and my team first, you know, because I just hired two developers to work with me on the consulting projects, and it has to get to a point where I'm able to do that thing where I can like just start a project and just give them a couple instructions and just say like, all right, use this, and this component, and you're good to go. And the developers are more like back end Rails developers. They don't like I designed all the front end UI, so that's what takes me a long time in when I do Clarity Flow is like I'm brought in to like I'm required to make things look nice
yeah.
and tighten everything up.
You're the product manager, the designer, and then
I'm the
also
product
going
manager
in.
designer person. Yeah, like it's like if it doesn't look right or the UX is wrong, like that's on me. I can't just tell my developer to, you know. So the components hopefully are a way to like lock in the UX and the UI and make it as easy as like a command that they can run to just insert it and then tweak some, maybe tweak a few options, tweak some Talon styles or whatever it might be. You know?
Yeah, yeah, and I think you were talking about this earlier, but it is one of those cases where it's like almost like move slow to go fast. It's like
Mm-hmm.
when you're building these kind of the bricks and laying the foundations, it takes a long time. But then as soon as you do have those in and it's more than just copy and pasting, but to your point, it's a gem and
Mm-hmm.
it's scaffolding or like a CLI that you can kind of like quickly just like get stuff up and running. Those will
Yeah, I mean,
hopefully pay
exactly. I was going to
dividends.
ask you. I was going to ask you about your consulting work. Like, how do you balance like the two retainers plus product work, right? Like, because like that's the thing about like up up until now, like earlier this year, I was doing these consulting projects, but it was mostly just me, and I balanced it like, okay, about 3 days a week, I'll just sit here and do those consulting projects myself, and then like 1 or 2 days a week, I can hack on some products. Um, and but now I'm trying to set it up so that like I'm not even required to deliver the whole project myself.
Mm-hmm.
um so that's why right now it's slower to like figure out the systems to take in a new MVP project from a client, and I scope it out, but I can pretty quickly like hand it off to my developer, maybe one person to like lead it and write up all the issues, and then my developer can knock them out, you know.
Yeah.
Still
And then
figuring
actually,
out that flow. That's really because that's taking a long time right now to like what is the actual process that doesn't require me to spend a whole week scoping out a project, you know.
and I mean, actually, you're kind of almost pulling from your old playbook. You're kind of, not to say this is a productized service, but you are productizing it to a certain degree, or at least
Yeah.
like like creating a process. And that's the one thing that um, I mean, my partner, she always asks me or tells me like, you need to figure out how to like hire some people to do some of this stuff and take some of the work on my plate. But I guess, um, I get a little bit conflicted with that. One, I do realize like the amount of time it takes and effort to get people put up to get them up to speed and really build a good fluid process. And I guess
Yeah.
sometimes I just don't feel like I'm up for that work. And then another thing too is I guess like almost like in a weird, not to say like sadistic way, but um, if I keep feeling the heat of the consulting work pushing me to actually do my own products and get out from underneath it, maybe that's more of like a fire under my ass
Hmm.
to build that margin. Because I mean, there definitely is a world where like if you get this process down and you end up potentially hiring four or five, developers, maybe a designer and like a product manager, you could actually have your own agency. But I guess I'm more in like
Yeah.
my mindset's more in like the product studio kind of space where like I would love to get to a point to where, maybe I have three or four little products and also like enough space and margin to kind of be. I'm just a tinkerer. I love tinkering on stuff. And so I want to like have like almost just like that mad scientist like workshop, computer
Yeah,
workshop
man,
lab
I'm
where I
with you.
can.
That's what I'm going for as well. Like a product studio is also the word that I think describes what I'm going for in general. Um, the consulting stuff, I don't want to like I don't because like people can look at that in a few different ways. You can look at it like, okay, I'm really investing into it to grow into a big agency, and that's the big business that I'm focused on. Or people look at consulting like, oh, it's just something that you do like temporarily from time to time to pay some bills, and then you can turn it
Yeah,
off on and turn it off. Um, but I think that there is something in between those. And I don't like it being so temporary because it is really painful to like turn it back on,
totally.
like because I'm
To get the
finding this
leads
now
and doing the
to get the
marketing and like
leads, yeah,
keeping
to like
the
drum up
funnel
new
filled.
business when you need it is like really hard. So
Yeah,
you sort of have to keep the business going to get that natural like word of mouth referral stuff happening, right?
and you got to figure out how to.
Um,
And I guess what you're almost working on right now is like at that point also, how do I auto scale? How do I have a
yeah,
process so dialed in to where like we can flex and contract and expand and contract like fluidly and figure that out. Now, granted, a lot of that is also finding the right people or finding the right talent
yeah.
pool to be able to pull from at a time, when you need them, but that's
I
tricky.
do have so like I come from an experience with audience ops. I don't know how much you know about that side of things. It's a little bit different this time around, but I'm trying to do something similar where like
Hmm.
when I started Audience Ops, which was a blog writing productized service, literally on day one when I started that business, it was like, I'm not going to do this business if I am ever writing articles myself. Like that's just a non-starter. Um, so like I hired writers from day one and then pretty quickly hired project managers to talk to the clients and some other people and like editors and stuff like that. Um, but like ultimately that it was sort of hard to figure out all the processes, but it became like pretty easy to build out that service and the process and the defining the roles and then
Hmm.
fully removing myself to a point where like clients can sign up and never talk to me. And I don't even need to give any input on anything that's going on because I've got great managers and great writers doing it. Um, but this is a little bit different because I'm very still very much involved with the client
Yeah.
and I still want to be. I still like the work of understanding the product idea, who it's for, architecting a really good solution, um, like figuring out the roadmap, even architecting the features, how they should be built, designing them. Um, I like that stuff. uh, but I'm trying to figure out how to, and I also have a pretty good handle on like hiring just a back end Rails developer, and I've got a good team that I can scale there. Like I work with
Yeah.
a staffing agency in India who can easily scale up and down as I need to, so that's been pretty good. But like they need tickets ready to build,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
Keep
know.
the ticket pipeline
Yeah.
primed.
So that's like the big bottleneck is like me writing up these detailed tickets, and even before that, like creating wireframes and mockups in Figma. Like I do all that, um, and I haven't yet figured out how to like hire not someone to like fully even replace me from that. I still want to be involved in it,
Hmm.
but I want to spend like 1 day on it instead of like 10 days on it.
Yeah.
So like if I can like just do the high level direction, and then somebody else sort of puts it all together, and then maybe I take a look and give some notes, and then we finalize it, and then we hand it off to the devs, like that would be beautiful.
Yeah. And I think you'll get there. It's just, again, it's just a matter of time. And actually, I think the earlier that you pull yourself out of that flow, the less you'll be able to really optimize it. And also, like, um, you always hear about like packaging up the sawdust. Well, you actually need to be there creating the sawdust to then understand like where the value is and like what am I putting on the floor that actually could be the value that I need to, whether it's making the Figma component, you know, library that you can just slap these wireframes together with, or you know,
Figma
uh,
is another thing. I don't know how much you work in Figma. I went deep on it last week, and I've been using Figma like for years, but like so rough. Like I don't use
yeah,
components, I don't use auto layout or any of that. Like I just learned like how to use all that stuff. Um, and like and even like I created a whole template project with like my wireframes, how I like them, all components, all auto layout. It's great, but like even still, like I duplicated it to like two client projects. I'm like, man, I'm still doing a ton of clicking and typing in little labels for things. And I'm like, it's just clicking and duplicating templates and instances of components. Like this has to be automated. Like, does Figma have an API that I can like program the designing of wireframes
well,
and
I mean, you
automate
might,
it? Like,
I mean, maybe you start digging into that V0 by Vercel or whatever, or you can just AI generate some of the stuff
I
and
I've
tweak
looked
it.
at
But
some of that too. Yeah, like there's AI like it's not there yet for design stuff. Like
yeah,
it's there for coding and using cursor and stuff like that. For design work, it is not. It's not really usable. At least I'm not aware of the new stuff. But like it's
yeah, there is a pipeline actually, I think, where you can both feed React components into Figma or also like generate React components out, which I know obviously V0 is just using ShadCN and all React stuff. So
mm,
there might be some sort of weird way to where you can figure out some sort of flow to kind of
yeah,
regen some of that stuff and maybe also feed it the components. Ideally you'd want to feed it your components that you would have and just
yeah. That's the thing is like
like
all the
make
automated
me
stuff that
these
I
8
see.
pages and
Yeah,
I want a standard header footer across all of them, and
I was just
but
googling
then
it this morning and like yeah, like all that automated stuff is like taking a Figma file and converting it out to code. Um,
but
and
you want to
I sort
generate
of
more
need it
Figma.
like I want the only use for Figma in my whole process is like before we start coding. And
Yeah.
and when it's just me, I don't even use Figma. I just go straight into designing
Yeah,
code.
design in the browser. that's
Um,
my
but like
mode.
exactly that's how I do stuff. But then when there's like a client and a team involved, I sort of need like a visual thing that we can all, get on board with.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I've worked with different teams and they've used Figma to different capacities. Some of them are they have their design system like, core elements, like the natives where it's just like the colors and the spacings and stuff. And then they have those then fanned out to individual components with auto layout and almost like the ability to like dynamically scale spacing within those based off of like other
Mm.
units and files. And I mean, that's
It's crazy like
it's a
how
crazy
deep you can
system.
go with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
A lot of times I look at those systems, I'm like, what's the point? Just build it. Just build the final web app. Like, you know.
I mean, at that point, people
But when
say,
you
should
have all these
designers learn how
teams
to
that,
code? It's like they're almost coding. They're just happen to be
yeah,
doing it in like
yeah,
a very WYSIWYG way, but it's code one way or the other.
yeah,
It's just like, how can you extract all that effort out of it and not have to do it twice?
yeah, totally. But like getting back to like the product studio thing, what I would really love to get to, and I feel like we're not far off, is like having a flow of these MVP consulting projects and a flow of customers buying the components and maybe something for that middle plan. And so that's like a solid like cash flow business in itself, right?
Hmm.
And then, and if I have the right team members in place and I've removed myself enough from those processes, then I can spend most of my time spinning up little product ideas, using the components, maybe doing videos showing how I'm using the components to
How
spin
you're
up
applying the
products.
components,
Yeah.
expanding that
So
component library, and maybe also some of the tooling around it. I mean, that's where I think you got to be using this stuff if you actually want to
yeah.
kind of like evolve it. Um,
Yeah. And like even just building out these processes, like I'm just in the past 3 weeks, I'm thinking about like three, I think, pretty solid product ideas for like tools that I would want to be using in my consulting pipeline flow, like, like a proposals tool and like an invoicing tool and like maybe something around the wireframing tool.
mhm.
Um, like these are processes that we could use internally, or these are like products or tools that we could use to improve our flow. Because right now I'm sort of like hacking together different things that like between like Notion and like harvest invoices and different
Yeah.
things. Like it's not pretty. And then, um, but like these could be potential products, like small simple SaaS products that are pretty easy to spin up using components. So like
Hmm.
if nothing else, it's like tools for ourselves and uh and like content for videos. And then we happen to ship it as a real product. Like if I can
Yeah. Yeah. Not
get to a
fully,
point where it's like,
not
yeah,
always isolated and just personal use, but open it up for public consumption and figure out. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I think
in
that is the
theory.
dream. Yeah. I know all this stuff just takes so much time.
Yep.
And then, yeah, yeah, it's so tricky. But,
So like
sorry.
what's your next thing? What's your like I guess maybe like before we wrap up here, like what's your main thing that you're trying to get done? I guess here between now and the end of the year.
So, yeah. So, I mean, I think starter packs is going to be, the one that I get out first. Cause I just think
I like that.
try to jump on the hype wave. Um, and not even say that it's hype wave. I actually just genuinely think Blue Sky is like I just feel better there for whatever reason. Even if people it's because people are saying that you feel better there, but there is something different. And when I go back to Twitter, it's night and day between like the ads and the recommendations and other stuff that I'm just randomly seeing in there. And I guess I've never
Totally.
been like much of a blocker, or muter or whatever on
Yeah,
like
me
either
neither.
platforms, and I just never felt like I had to until recently. And but at the same time, now that I'm looking at Blue Sky, I'm like, man, I should have been doing I should have been blocking more stuff. Because
Yeah,
maybe I was just kind
I
of like a
really think
frog
that
in the
like
pot, like with the hot, with like the water getting warmer. I was just like boiling myself at some point. I didn't realize it or something.
totally. I just posted a tweet today about this, but like I don't even know what it's called on Blue Sky. I just call them tweets. But
Yeah,
but
I think that skeets, is that what people
Skeets,
are,
yeah. I
something
don't
like
know.
that?
I don't think I can get on board with that. but
Yeah.
the I do think that it's sort of overblown on both sides, right? Like that like X is like super right wing this and that, and like Blue Sky is super left wing. Like there might be some of that in some places or some feeds, but like I just follow people that I'm interested in, and if they're annoying, then I'll just unfollow them. And
Yeah.
like it's not that bad on either side, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I'm not
I
saying
like
that.
your direction on like the product because like that is I'm using Blue Sky a lot, and definitely already feeling sort of like the pain point that you were talking about around like lists and discovery and connect and finding the right connections between people. Um, I feel like there's something pretty useful there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think, and it's a pretty light app. I mean, I have all the UI done at this point. I also have like the OAuth to be able to add accounts. It's more about just like playing around with, I know people can have multiple accounts. So I'm like, do I allow for multiple account switching in this app or just launch with
Mm.
just the one? I also actually, this was like a different idea. Maybe I should or should not say it on the pod because I'm not sure how quick I'll be able to get to it. But the fact that people can have custom handles, that's almost like a whole other aggregation space where essentially, I mean, I've seen some other companies doing it where they'll use like subdomains So it'll be like at I think like the guys from Honey Badger, like Josh or Joshua, like at josh.honeybadger.com. Um, it'd almost be cool to even get like auto groupings of everyone who's like at root domain level to where you could then
Oh,
see like
interesting.
everyone within like a company or like a group
Like a
or an
company.
organization and like a fit
Mm.
almost have like affiliations based on your handle and be able to
Well,
explore
one
that way
thing that
too.
I this would probably be more of like a feature for Blue Sky itself or Twitter, but the thing that I always wanted um is a some sort of like group feature. Um like I wish I could, cuz and this is where it gets to like the annoying, like or not, or trying not to annoy people with certain subject matter, right? So like
Mm-hmm.
um I always wanted this. If I could, if people could like subscribe to or follow me, but choose to follow my tweets about politics or choose to follow my tweets
Yeah,
about
yeah, yeah.
products or not, right? Like if you want to follow my stuff about bootstrapping and
Like
products, but you don't
sub
want to hear,
feeds
yeah,
almost
if
like
you don't,
per
like if you
user.
don't want to hear my political opinions, then like uncheck that box. And then when I put out a tweet,
You
like
tag
I
it
could say
or
like show this to everyone or show this only to people who subscribe to my political tweets or whatever it is, you know.
mm-hmm.
um I don't
Yeah, I
know
feel
what
like
the answer to that is, but
Twitter had that, but it was on the opposite side where it was like, you know, you had those kind of community feeds. Like there was like build in public and some other things where you could send tweets in there and then you could choose to have them also sent on your main timeline. Like you could almost do
mm,
like a isolated tweet, but that was a little bit on the opposite side where you would be specifically tweeting to a specific group as opposed to like tweeting to your main and then having it almost like auto filtered based off of like what someone is subscribing
yeah,
to you for, whether they want all of it or whether they only want a subset of product or politics or sports or whatever.
yeah, for
Um,
sure. I don't know. Just
but
build another social network. It'll be fine.
yeah, no big deal. But yeah, um, so yeah, I mean, I want to get that out, and ideally, you know, it's always you start end of year, you start reflecting on the years or year past and like what your plans are for the future. And I guess I haven't done that really big deep dive of like, what do I want 2025 to be? You know, like, is
Mhm.
it the year of what? And is there some stuff that I can put out ahead of time that will, you know, be the kindling for whatever that year might be? I'm not sure yet. How about
Yeah.
yourself? I mean, instrumental
Oh
dev
man.
is that the
Yeah.
horse you're racing on?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like I made some pretty good progress on the components library itself, like using that internally. But the thing that I really need to get going on is like instrumental dev, the website, and the ability to like see the docs and have an account and log in and like buy the stuff.
hmm
Um, I haven't figured out
what
any
do
of
you
that yet.
foresee the like what are the SKUs, do you think? Is it just access to the site and then you'll be able to get access to like the gem or and the
I haven't
documentation or are you kind of playing around with that right now?
I haven't fully figured it out yet. I am building instrumental dev as a Rails app itself,
Yeah.
and um, my thought right now is, so the components currently live as a gem in a private GitHub repo. I I think I'm gonna have some sort of like authorization token that you buy access to,
hmm
and I think it'll be like an annual license, and we'll somehow check, like authenticate.
Token,
Um,
yeah, token validity like as you're using the gem and you'll retain access and use of that as
yeah,
long
I
as
mean,
you're
I guess you
subscribed.
could like theoretically you can like download it today and use it, and if you don't renew your thing next year, you'll still have it in your project to use. You just won't be able to get like the latest stuff, but
The updates.
you'll also lose access to like there will be like a membership component. So like being able to log in and like there will be like a members chat group maybe losing access to like the docs. Like
Hmm.
I do think that there's going to be an SEO play too. So like every component is going to have a page, and some portion of it is going to be publicly viewable, and probably other parts of it are going to be hidden to like just members. You know,
Gotcha.
I haven't really figured out all the details on that yet, though.
Yeah, it's so tricky to figure out like what to hide and what to really put out there. Because to your point, from like a programmatic SEO standpoint or whatever, you want to have as many pages and like
Yeah,
keywords leading to that. So to
and I think most of them
artificially,
are going to have videos too. Like I want to do like a video overview or like how you could use this component, but not like. Then it's also a question of like, what do you actually like? Do I show how to build this component? Because you could just build it,
mhm,
or you can
or
get
how to
access
use
to
it,
it. Yeah.
how to use it in like
Um,
a context. Yeah.
yeah, but that'll be the next thing, and then I want to get that going. I want to get I have my consulting stuff going. I'm trying to get the processes worked out. My real goal for 2025, I think, is going to be to work less. I would love to. I was just saying this to my wife the other day. Like, if I think my goal for 25 is going to be to work 4-day weeks.
Nice.
And that might be like, because I have to like have like a forcing function in my life to say like you're not supposed to work Fridays, you know. Because if I just work, because currently I just work every day, you know, sometimes more than 5 days a week,
Hmm.
and uh, yeah, I need to get my systems and team in place and products, you know, at a certain place where like next year I could be totally fine just working 4 days a week and try to get some more space in there. You know,
Yeah,
that
that's
would be cool.
amazing. I mean, yeah,
In theory, again.
and to go back to you know, how I balance the client stuff and the person, and the personal project stuff. It's I basically, as soon as I drop the kids off at school and race home, maybe I'll go for a quick run, just to kind of clear the head and get the body like ready. And I just try to jam through as much client stuff as I can until about 3 or 4. And then, within like that next like hour or two that I have, try to get a little bit of headway into the client stuff or to the personal stuff. And then I'm nights and weekending it like crazy
Yep.
just to make it happen. But yeah, so there really is no good balance to it. It's I'm in multiple slacks and I'm getting pinged from like multiple sides and stuff. Um,
Yeah, it's rough.
but it's just
I
kind of
just,
the,
I mean,
the
for me, when
necessary
I
evil
work
for
with
now.
clients, I do, I don't love like feeling like I have deadlines, and I do have deadlines. Like
Yeah.
we agreed to a project, and I have to deliver something every week on them. But I don't, I very specifically don't say like I'm going to work these days or these hours. You know, it's always
Yeah.
just like you're going to hear from me once a week.
Yeah. You'll
I'm
get
not sure which
reports.
day yet.
You'll
You know,
get
you'll get a
weekly
report.
check
Yeah.
ins and I'll send you over stuff to preview or whatever. I mean, I actually am probably, it is pretty good to where it is pretty autonomous. It's like we have tickets on the board, we move stuff through, we're
Hmm.
communicating in Slack, and it's not very, it's not like I have to be in a seat between hours, but there probably is like a slight expectation that I would be getting back, within like a certain amount of time. So that's
Hmm.
definitely tricky to balance.
For sure.
But yeah, I love the idea of, just trying to peel back and get more hours in.
Yeah, man.
Trying to
I
think.
just feel like I would love to have a day a week that's not a weekend to just say like I'm not supposed to work today. I could do whatever I want today, whether that's sleep late or work out more or whatever it is, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Do
and
hobbies.
that's why we try to do these like personal independent things, is to have that freedom, right? I mean, the freedom's
Hmm.
really where it's at. I mean, obviously if you get the financial reward, that's icing on the cake, but really I feel like freedom first and then um
Yeah. Like what are we even doing this for? You know.
yeah, exactly. Well, cool, man. I felt like there was one other thing I wanted to ask you about, but
I don't know if people were
Maybe
watching
we'll
this
get to it
live
in
or
another
not,
one.
but
Actually, yeah, I didn't tell you. We got 83 people on here right now.
for
Actually,
real. Oh shit. I didn't
yeah,
know.
if there's any
Is there like a
questions,
chat? Is there like a live chat that I could see or no?
um, it look so far only one person from Twitch has said something.
Oh, right on. All right. Well, that's cool to know. I had no, I thought nobody was watching this.
No, yeah, we have 83 people on. So if they want to ask a quick question while I have Brian on the line, feel free to bring it in. I think that's kind of the cool thing about trying to do these live shows is like the serendipity of maybe being able to field a question or two
Yeah,
when they
we've been
come
trying
in.
to we don't do it live on Bootstrapped Web, but we do usually tweet and ask for questions like, and we always do it like 10 minutes before we
Of
record. So if we
course, yeah.
happen to see, somebody tweets something just
In the
right
sea
at
of
the right
tweets.
moment. Yeah, exactly.
um, but yeah,
This is cool. I do want to do more live stuff and also just more podcasting like this, like getting more in the weeds on technical product decisions. I love the idea for jam sessions. It's a great name. Like it's a yeah. I like more of this. We do a bit of it on Bootstrapped Web, but it's more like business focused. Um, and it's always good to talk to another product person. So yeah.
yeah, yeah, I mean, Jam Sessions actually evolved from it was a meetup that I was hosting at my buddy's co-working space. And originally it was
Oh,
one of those
sweet.
things where just get 10 people around a table. There's a projector there if you want to, plug in and throw something up and just like let people check it out. But it was originally it was supposed to be weekly, but we kind of slowed the pace on that. I mean, it was almost kind of like masterminds, but not like a dedicated group. And also it was interesting because it was open to anyone could just join.
That's cool.
Um, but it was first come first serve. So there was people from there was artists and technologists and a guy who was trying to start a whiskey brand and all these different things.
That's
But
super cool.
it was really
I love
fun.
hearing like it would be a really cool thing for like definitely live in person, but also like a remote thing where it's like yeah, like do it live and invite other people on to just present like more of like a build in public, like present what you're currently working on. Um,
Get
but
feedback
it
from
doesn't
the panel or the group, and maybe even
the
get
panel, maybe like a live chat.
external live chat feedback.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be confined to like a single tweet with like a 60-second video. You could actually get the floor for like 20 minutes or 30 minutes to like present your thing and then field questions and really share it, like
Yeah, I mean, we
that would be
had
super cool.
the process was basically everyone went around the room and introduced themselves real quick and kind of just expressed like what they wanted to get out of the evening. And then we went around and depending on how many people were there, they basically had like 10 minutes or so. Per and then we did basically like another final wrap up. But obviously those things ended up going over. And we had
Hmm.
pizza and beer and it,
That's cool.
it became like a real social hangout thing. But yeah, I mean, trying to rekindle a little bit of that flavor with this kind of live show podcast thing. Um, it's actually I wanted to say like thanks for making Ripple because that was one of the sparking moments for even like rekindling the idea of jam sessions. And granted, obviously this one is not one of the private editions because we're live streaming and this one's going on the live feed, but I am going to include it on the Ripple on
Yeah, sweet.
that Ripple feed as well. And I think that's just a really cool project that obviously we didn't get a chance to dig into too much right now. But if anyone's listening, obviously, well, also people are obviously listening, but and they'll hear this podcast later. I guess maybe you just want to give people a quick little overview of like
I'll give
what
a
Ripple
quick
is and
maybe like a quick update on it. So like yeah,
yeah,
it's at ripple.fm and it is I still what I liked about it originally, the idea, and I built it over the summer, this past summer, took about a month on it. It was like it's a podcasting social network, and it's still sort of amazing to me that like podcasts in general are not more networked, right? Like if you
yeah,
listen to my podcast, you should be able to easily not only communicate. First of all, like listeners of my podcast are not connected to each other unless they come into to Ripple. But listeners of my podcast are very similar to other podcasts, and they should be able to network with those. And that was the original idea. And it's also like a private podcasting thing. So I have a private, you have a private feed. I have a private feed. A couple other people do, and you can start one up. And the nice thing about these is that it's more like semi-private, right? Like anyone can subscribe to my private podcast, but I do require an email
Yeah.
sign up.
And everyone
And
gets their own
that
unique feed
everyone gets
URL.
their own unique feed. So theoretically, I'm not doing it right now, but I could like charge for access, and turn on and off. So I think that's probably where I'm gonna go with it if I go anywhere with Ripple. Like right now, it's sort of like, a couple hundred people use it, and it's all free. Nothing's paid. But I think in the future, at some point, I might sort of like focus the thing around the private podcasting side. I still think that public podcasts should be more networked than they are.
Yeah.
But I thought there might be some like viral traction that would happen, and that just didn't really take off. But the
I feel like I feel like it had a moment. It had like a hot moment when people were really commenting and were active
yeah,
in the things.
we get some comments from Bootstrapped Web
Yeah.
listeners, but like I like the private piece because like I might really just focus it on like this is a way to have a private podcast feed with your friends, your organization, or your audience. It's already set up now where you can like add those emails to your ConvertKit list.
Oh, right.
But then like adding the ability to like charge for access and just make it like a private like solely a private podcasting tool. I think
Hmm.
because it's mostly there. I just need to sort of like refocus the marketing around it. But I don't know even when I'm even going to get around to doing all that. But for
Yeah,
now,
I
it's just
know.
one of those things that it was fun to build, and it's still up and running, and it helped me move along in my components library as I was building it. And
Totally.
it's also a good opportunity to really learn all the Hotwire stuff in Rails. And like that was the project that like I was able to really go deep and like get a solid handle on all those patterns because Clarity Flow started like before all that came around. So
Yeah.
um, yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, actually when you did the pivot from Clarity Flow or from Zip Message to Clarity Flow, I was curious, did you lose a lot of like was there a lot of churn when you kind of made it more coaching focused, or did some people stick
Um,
around? Not to, and then
there
also you don't
had
have to answer this if you don't want to,
Yeah, no,
but
there has been churn, but it wasn't sudden. It was like because the focus on coaching started before we even changed the name.
yeah.
Probably started like 6 months before, and then when we did the name change, MRR actually went up because at the same time we raised prices.
Raise prices, yeah.
Um, um, but people were grandfathered in; they still are. And yeah, there has been a slow churn of legacy customers, but they're replaced with new customers, and all the new customers are paying a
The
higher
higher
price
rate.
than the
Yeah.
old customers. So we are losing, but we're replacing them with higher revenue customers. So ultimately, what that has looked like in the last year um, is like if you segment the MRR graph, which I do between legacy and new customers, it's sort of like a big X, right?
Yeah, it just
Where
kind of
like
like tapers
it's
off, like the ones that are
yeah, like
going down are then made up by
legacy
the
goes down and new goes up, but new is worth more, so it equates to like a slowly growing
yeah.
total MRR.
Yeah,
But then
totally.
we've had some unlocks in the last couple of months on like SEO and we killed our free trial recently, and now we just people purchase on day one, and that's been a really interesting experiment, which is sort of working. We're about to launch a big forms feature, so like a
And
lot
you
of
also
like
had
big
another
changes
big
happening, but like it's still like it's growing slowly, and then a bump, and then more slowly, and then another bump, and
yeah.
a
And you had
long slow
another big
ramp.
feature release recently, right? Or was it the
Appointments
payments?
was the last
Appointments.
one.
That's right. That's right.
We did
Appointments.
payments about a year ago, and then appointments was like 2 months ago. It was like
Gotcha.
basically like calendar booking built in.
Yeah. So kind of like a Calendly or SavvyCal
Mhm.
ish kind of thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't
Um,
normally advocate like building all these different tools into one product, but like coaches want they want all this stuff in there. They like if you're a coach, you're booking appointments with clients, you're selling coaching packages, um, you're sending forms because you're sending like quizzes and assessments,
mhm.
onboarding forms, and they're running courses through us. We have a courses feature, um, and yeah, trying to just power your whole coaching business essentially.
I mean, what's wild is actually when you start saying that kind of stuff, especially with the forums, I almost think that like if you were to take like the engine and then maybe have it be, I mean, actually Clarity Flow name is pretty great, but for like user testing, imagine being able to send like a request out, like a video request out to someone, say like, go check out this website, run through it,
That
record
was
yourself, and then like send like a follow up, like NPS or who knows,
Well, that
like,
what you just described, that actually was the original idea for Zip Message.
oh, that was Zip Message. Okay. I mean,
Yeah,
I knew
like
Zip Message. Maybe I was thinking of it more from like a support standpoint as opposed to like user testing, but I guess it could be
yeah,
used for
we did
either.
have a few users who wanted to use it for user testing. But yeah, actually my original thought for the product was more like a support thing where I could send any user a link to it like if you're in a customer support context and I need to see what happened, I can send you a link to go record your screen and send it back to me. The problem with that, and you can do the same thing for like sales or for like asking for responses from anyone. The problem is that if you don't have a strong relationship, the incentive for the other person to actually like click the thing and like record video into some strange new tool, like that is hard. And that's what it like that's why we sort of pivoted very early on into like async conversations, but then we pivoted to clients because to coaches and their
Coaches. Yeah.
clients because they have a paid relationship. Clients are paying for access to the coach, and because of that, they are much more willing to actually respond and engage in using the tool. And then once they do, it's like this is a really efficient way to have an async conversation.
Yeah. Although I do think, obviously Loom was probably like the big player in the space, but also from
Mm-hmm.
a customer support standpoint, I don't imagine many general like like internet people are really using Loom. I think that's more probably
Yeah, that's
focused towards
when I
like the product
started
team,
it.
and like a browser based, your browser based alternative seemed like the probably the most accessible,
That was the idea
least
because
amount
I
of
because I
barriers.
was telling before that I was telling customers I was like, hey, go sign up for this tool. It's called Loom, and you got to install it, and then you do it, and then you send me a link, and so like that. People who are unfamiliar with that whole thing is like, um, I mean, yeah, Loom has gotten much more widespread since then,
But I would say
but then even
your
looms are
average,
like
it's
one
one
off,
way.
like one way,
Yeah.
and I think the thing that resonated early with Zip Message was that you could have like a threaded reply. I mean, that's why like yeah, we sell it to coaches, but like I still use it with my clients all the time. Like
Hmm.
I have entire client engagements where we don't have any Zoom calls. It's just Clarity Flow, like sending them updates async with video and or text, and it's easy. Same thing with my team. I don't do team calls really. It's just all async.
Yeah,
The
that's
only the
cool.
only calls I do are podcasts these days.
No, I mean, yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, there probably is like a weird, like horizontal play where you could basically take the underlying engine of Clarity Flow and potentially like spin up multiple like targeted things at different people and figure out a way of like extracting out that core engine of at least like the video and I guess really all the pieces really. I mean, forms, um,
Yeah, I've thought about that too. I've
maybe
also
even
had a
the
lot of
scheduling when it comes to
interest.
like webinars and stuff, but that then you're getting into the whole live thing, which might not.
Yeah, no, I mean the one thing that is still on the longer term roadmap as like a big maybe, a big question mark is, will we release some sort of white label version of Clarity Flow? Um,
Mm,
because I get a lot of requests for it, and we've had a lot of customers try to use Clarity Flow in a white labeled, not white labeled like reselling it, but like clients who are they are a coach and they have a coaching business, and we already give them some branding abilities, like you can do custom domains and custom like custom colors and stuff like that.
but
Um,
you also have a mobile
but
app too, right?
and we have a mobile app, and that's not branded, um, or it's just Clarity Flow branded.
Yeah.
But then like the ability to like, a lot of customers want to like embed Clarity Flow in their pre-existing membership site or custom built application or something like that. And yeah, we have iframes and stuff, but it's hard to, and we don't have like single sign-on stuff. So there might be like a single sign-on like deep integration version of it in the future, which we would charge a lot more for if
Yeah.
you really want to go that route. But
Yeah. I was gonna say, I
that's
think,
that's like a big maybe, you know.
I know of other companies that have similar kind of white labeling stuff, and I think out of the gate it's a $60,000 upfront, and then you're also paying a pretty, high, like either
Yeah,
like
because that
per seat premium
the
or
only
like
and that's the kind of thing that like I push off, like, and I have mostly have said no as like, because we have customers who try to use it in that capacity, and then
mhm,
they try to like push it to its limits in terms of integrations, and then they ultimately realize like, it's still just an iframe in my site and it's still too hacky, and then they'll churn.
yeah.
But these are larger companies that would be willing to like pay for a deeper integration. So if we made that a bit, so that's something that's like, maybe we'll get there.
Yeah.
But it could be a big distraction. So I'm not really sure if that's right or not. You know?
Yeah, I mean it's tricky to weigh those that kind of like opportunity cost, right? Because you could build it, and obviously you have the knowledge of like people have attempted to do this and they weren't able to, and so they did and ultimately end up churning. But at the same time, you don't really know whether they would have stayed or found some other issue to churn on, so then you're like
Yeah,
kind of taking
and
that
it's also like
risk
a
for like
big.
that big build, and it's
It
like,
is a big build. It's not
yeah,
like so yeah, and for like, it's not like the majority of our customers. It's only like a small segment of them. So
yeah,
like right now we're shipping forms because like tons of people ask for the ability to have custom forms. So we know that like we can really make our customers happy with this one. You know.
yeah, deliver on that. Actually, regarding sorry, just one question. 1 month app. I know you started with like an introductory rate of what, like 10 grand or something, right?
Yeah, technically that's still the rate, but it the thing, and it's going to be raising in
Yeah, I was
January.
just say
But
you got to.
yeah, but part of the misconception I think is most projects aren't 1 month. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. It's
uh,
like a short time retainer kind of thing or something, or I guess it
yeah. I
depends on
mean,
what you negotiate out with the
we're still
clients.
building an MVP. I do give them a proposal, and I see my job as like, let me understand your product vision or goal for the problem that you're trying to solve, and I'm going to give you a proposal for like, all right, here's the 4 week version of that, and that might be 50 or 60% of what you want to build, and then here's the 6 week and the 8 week and the 12 week version of what you want. And I'm going to make my best recommendation. Like, look, we can actually ship something that's like pretty valuable in 4 weeks. It's not going to be everything, but but then ultimately, like, that's why like most projects end up signing on for like usually like a 2 month project to really
Yeah.
like build out, and then some of them go to like 3 months. Um, you know, but I do think that especially using components and keeping things simple and straightforward, uh, we actually can build like a pretty solid. It's actually an MVP in 4 weeks, you know.
Yeah.
But the typical thing is like we'll keep building after that. You know?
Are you billing for that initial like discovery projection of the different
Right
uh
now, no, and that's another thing that I might introduce.
I think you totally could. I think you could do like a discovery, whether it's a few days or a week or something, and bill out like 2 to 5 grand, and then basically
Yeah.
show them the document that it's like, here's the blueprint. I'm showing you the Cadillac, the like,
Yeah.
uh,
Well, part of
Toyota and then
that's
the Kia or whatever. But,
I've been thinking a lot about doing that because I have had a few leads who really had a hard time grasping the concept of like, oh, it's not like whatever I want packed into 1 month, you know?
yeah,
Um,
you're just going to build me $100,000 app in 1 month
yeah,
for 10 grand. Come on.
yeah. But at the same time, I've had plenty of other clients who totally understand what it is that I'm offering, and they easily sign on for like 3 months, you know?
Yeah.
And so like for that, and in most of those cases, they have done this before. They have some other SaaS product that they've built and sold, and they understand that this is actually a pretty good deal even for like a 3 month project. Um,
Yeah, totally.
so like and like for them, like I wouldn't have really needed a discovery phase. But I think that that's going to be something that I introduce pretty soon because it's also
It's just
like a
another
way
package,
to
I think,
it's another
and you can weed
package to
people out.
offer, you know. Yeah.
Like if people want more of an explanation of what you plan on delivering.
Yeah, like
Um,
anytime the proposal process goes beyond a couple days of like,
yeah,
because there have been a few where I do the proposal like three versions of it after some negotiations, and that's where it feels like, all right, I spent way too much time before we even had a project green light, you know.
totally. But
So
yeah, I think there's
other
definitely a
other
new
ones are like, yeah,
package.
first proposal looks great, let's go, you know. I'm like, great, you know. So
Yeah,
um, yeah, it's been that's been a learning thing for sure.
that was cool. I mean, I think, yeah, to your point about not trying to burn too much time, because I feel like that proposal office, process. I've worked at agencies before, and I've been involved in putting together these. You get an RFP, a request for proposal, and they could have 2 or 3 people jamming on that thing for like a week trying to put it together. Now,
Hmm.
granted, they're trying to land potentially like a 250,000 to like to $500,000. It could be like these bigger projects, and
Yeah.
you have to weigh that out. But
Yeah,
I
but like
think
right now I keep it pretty simple. I try to keep it pretty simple, and I have like I just use Notion for the proposal. But I also think that that needs to be, and I know that there are some pretty good proposal tools out there. But yeah, like there needs to be something probably more visual with like basic wireframes without me spending a lot of time on creating those.
yeah,
um,
totally. Or at
yeah.
least just to get the point across. It doesn't have to be the exact thing for that deliverable, but here's an expectation of what you will get in like the first week or whatever, and then build that expectation of like how the whole engagement will progress.
Yeah, but I do expect that like at some point very soon, probably around January, the main rate is going to increase, but I'm also going to introduce the option for like just hire me for 1 week, uh,
Yeah,
and
like
we'll
the
really
discovery
nail
one.
down. Yeah, and like the discovery can be valuable in itself, just to nail down the roadmap and some user flows for your idea, and like get an actual look at like what can we ship in a month or 2 months, and whether you work with me or someone else, it's still valuable.
Yeah,
Um,
because actually,
and
so
then
I think so,
also like or you could like take my roadmap and use our components to build it yourself, you know.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel like some of the most valuable stuff that comes out of that is really almost like getting the roles reversed and having the questions pushed back on them to then have them kind of answer some of like, well, yeah, what do I want? What am I really trying to
I know, and
achieve
like
with
that's
this?
another one of those
And
like
that
product
like
ideas. I keep churning on this. I'm like, I'm like, if maybe there's like an AI product that helps them refine their MVP idea and asks all the right questions, and then spits back a nicely formatted like overview for me to pop into a proposal. Like,
oh,
I don't
totally. I
know,
mean, I think there
something,
definitely is
you
that
know?
choose your own
Yeah,
adventure AI. Ask all the right questions. I mean, maybe you run this through Jordan's Rosie, and you do it
hmm, that's
through a
right.
phone
Yeah,
call, and then get the output and plug that into
I
your
should.
Figma and Notion, and then auto generate the proposal, and you'll be good to go.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need these damn humans anymore. Just automate it all.
I mean, I'm all for AI. But at the same time, I feel like I'm almost leaning more into the human analog, and then I'm just hopefully be leaning on these systems to automate more of the burdening tasks that come out of it. So that way we keep connections high, but
For
don't
sure.
get bogged down with all the rigmarole.
That's right, man. Well,
Cool. Well, we
I gotta
we
get back
definitely went
to
long.
actually
Yeah,
trying to
yeah,
ship some of this stuff
yeah.
today.
Awesome. Well, it's been great talking with you, Brian. You can find Brian. I guess where should people find you online?
Blue Sky and X. I'm still on both.
And you're
um,
at briancastle.com on Blue
yeah,
Sky.
briancastle.com. Yeah, if you search for that, it's all my stuff is like linked up on, and I co-host
Yeah.
bootstrappedweb.com, so the other podcast.
Oh, rad. It's been awesome having you, Brian. Hopefully this is good. Maybe we can do another one in the future and
Yeah, I would love to.
catch up.
Yeah, Ryan, thanks for having me on. This is super fun.
Awesome, man. Well, you have a great one.
All right,
Later. All right, cool. Oh,
all set.